Stranded in space on a ship crashing into the atmosphere of an unknown planet, Emil Spencer knew that the only way to survive would be by his own wits and guile. He vowed that somehow he would find and slay the titanic cosmic beast that put him in this predicament, VY572. With every installment, we follow Emil's explorations and discoveries on this journey of revenge against all odds. I'm Midnight Jester, and this is the Left Behind Starforge series.
Alright, well I am back in town. Granted, from your perspective, nothing changed. There was an episode last week and now there's an episode this week, but I'm back in town ready to get back into this, and so this recap is going to be as much for me as for you. Actually, probably even more for me than for you. But let's see, the main points, let's keep this pretty short. I remember that we found a way to indeed be able to track down the Imperium. We're going to use their security system against them and follow a ship that should be the one carrying the prisoners. It's not going to be a perfect system, but we're tracking it via the same method that they used to track us when we were stealing the ships. In addition to that, we do have the capability due to one of their comlinks left behind to actually trigger the anti-tamper devices that are on those tracking implements. If we get close enough, we should be able to make them be a big burst of electricity that'll cause a lot of havoc. So Emil on Raya's Promise and Bash on Newton's Folly, they're both pursuing this ship that has the captive prisoners. They've not caught up yet, though. Where we last left off, we were in a bit of a pickle at a waypoint where there was a gigantic, we're talking hill-sized jellyfish on this gas giant. It's looming over Raya's Promise, draping its electric tentacles, threatening to pull Raya's Promise up as it balloons its massive head upwards and intakes air. It's going to draw Raya's Promise up towards those tentacles, and if they touch, it's going to entirely disable the ship. Now, this would be a problem for several reasons. I mean, certainly wouldn't be good for anybody on board, but also, Newton's Folly is currently entirely relying on Raya's Promise for the ability to know where they're going. Their sensors are down, they were never able to fix that. So certainly if Raya's Promise is disabled, Newton's Folly is going to be blind and probably not especially able to help them. So we need to take care of that problem. First, however, we've only got 2 momentum I could definitely use to set a vignette so we can get 1 more. Now, I have the idea in mind that I would like to do a vignette on board. God, what was the name of the ship? The one that we determined last time, though. It was like the Prophet, something like that. The Profit Margin. I'd like to have a scene set aboard the Profit Margin, probably with the prisoners. I was thinking it could be something along the lines of what's going on with Vert, now outside of his power armor, locked in a room with everybody with a whole bunch of people who don't like him. But I don't know exactly what I want this scene to look like, and so I'm going to inspire a little bit of that with some oracles. There's the Begin a Session Oracle, which is going to give us a little bit of a flavor on this. And I've rolled Influential Character or Faction is introduced or given new detail. This should probably be somebody who actually deals with the prisoners on that ship. Somebody on the Profit Margin that interacts with them in some kind of capacity. Again, last time I kind of likened this to Squid Games, and I'm imagining a similar sort of thing here, where I'm seeing, if ever we had a person in this show that would be kind of a Kylo Ren kind of figure, they're doing up the intimidation factor here. The person who's going in to see them, gonna have a full armor guard behind them, but also is going to be very anonymized, like fully helmeted, we can't see their face, covered head to toe, Kylo Ren-like, right? They've got their intimidating voice coming through like a vocoder. Everything is about anonymizing them. It's kind of like, it's really giving Executioner sort of vibes because of that means of like, we don't know anything about who's under the mask. But they're going in there to do something. What do they want out of these prisoners? I guess this doesn't have to be concurrent in time. This could be when they were first there. Yeah, why don't we set it then? So the prisoners have recently been brought aboard. They're huddled in this room. Maybe they don't have beds yet. I'm going to say, yeah, that right now they've all been ushered into this open room that we established last time. It's used as a giant furnace. There are spouts all through the walls that are not currently active, but were originally intended to utterly incinerate everything in this room. And so There are a lot of very nervous people in here. And so I think the Imperium decides to capitalize on this moment where everybody's feeling a lot of fear and helplessness and they're already intimidated. They're going to send in this person who I'm not going to generate a name for them because the whole point is that they're so anonymous. But they send this person in with a guard in order to establish the ground rules at this moment. And so they come in here head to toe draped in... Actually, I'm kind of pivoting away from... They're not armored. Everybody else in the room is. All the backup. But this person has got like head to toe drapery. Just nothing that really gives any indication of the shape of their body. They basically look like the Grim Reaper in here. Just a thick, black, hooded robe that obscures everything. They walk in, and this voice comes from the hollow of that hood and says to everybody,
"Nobody in this room has to die if you can learn to follow orders. You have no doubt noticed that this room serves a dual purpose. Not only will it house you, but at any moment, the jets can be turned on to incinerate the lot of you. Do not give me reason to activate them. Prove to me that you can follow my demands without question, that you can behave despite your history of lawlessness and disobedience. Show me you have the capability, and then we will give you food and bedding."
And of course, everybody in the room is shivering, terrified. They don't want to set this guy off. They're just trying to unquestioningly and silently sit there. And we see that this robed figure is like, their head is leaned back a little bit. They're taking in these deep breaths. And then their hand raises up and feels like washes over the crowd, kind of waving over like a detector. And then it stops and points towards the back of the room, towards Vert. And the robed figure says,
"Everyone in this room feels terror, sweet fear, but you feel something different, something more troublesome. Betrayal. You feel you were betrayed. Fear can be controlled, subdued, but betrayal, you will be more dangerous. Shoot him."
Without flinching, the guards behind him raise their arms and, everybody between them and Vert, they just like dive down for cover, like hoping to not be in the way. Vert just stands there, armorless, and nobody hesitates about any of this. They just shoot him several times. He slumps down to the corner, just charred in the various laser blast shots, motionless. We rolled last time that there's a dead body in this room. I also said that Vert, I didn't want to just kill him off screen. I suppose technically this is on screen, but still, I don't want to just kill Vert. But he's definitely down for the count right now. I believe it is Vert's body, but he's not fully dead. He's just quite injured. I think it's purposeful that they don't shoot to kill, but they shoot to send a message. And then with that, the Imperium steps out of the room, closes the door behind them, and leaves everybody to think about what they've said. And, I know I've been saying that the Imperium is not just like the evil empire just trying to be mean for the sake of being the antagonist. And I stand by those words. They're not. They're not just evil. But right now they're trying to send a particular message. And, message received. So anyhow, why don't we get back to what's going on with Emil in his predicament right after I give myself +1 momentum. I can only begin to tell you how much fun I had putting together those filters to try and make the right kind of voice. It definitely stalled out this recording for a while I just played with that. But now, having done that for a little while, let's do the adventure. Also, it occurs to me this entire time, anytime I've been recapping this, I've been mistakenly saying that Emil is aboard Raya's Promise. That's not true. I forgot. Emil is traded up to the Beowulf. He's flying that. The Beowulf. and Newton's Folly are going after this ship. They are both in their big warships. Emil has access to the heavy cannons, all of that. I forgot about how Tycoon basically gave Emil the keys and said, "You're the captain now." Ish. You know, he is certainly the pilot and owner of this ship, but as we determined last time, the crew aren't necessarily going to answer to him as the final say on things. That's probably going to be more of a Bash thing. Anyway, though, the Beowulf is being sucked upwards towards these electric tentacles. And because their sensors are not down, I believe Emil is aware of the situation. They're able to tell that there is that problem up ahead, or up above rather, and that they need to avoid that disabling them. I suppose they could handle this in a couple of ways. In a way, the electric tentacles are kind of like a form of the problem that happens when Emil releases his EMP. You know, they might overload the system and disable things, and they could, if they don't think they'd be able to avoid the jellyfish, they could try just shutting down all the systems fast enough that they don't get overloaded. But then they'd probably be stuck in the tentacles, and how do they get out? And they wouldn't be able to communicate with Newton's Folly. Doesn't seem like the right plan. Really, they should probably just be evading. But is there anything I can think of to try and secure us an advantage first? You know, they don't have a lot of time. I think this is dangerous enough that they probably have... If I can think of the appropriate thing that doesn't take a lot of time, they can maybe secure one advantage, but then they got to be dodging out of the way. Like, this would have to be lightning fast. I'm not even going to set a clock on this. It's just, this is imminently about to happen. So is there any kind of advantage they could do right away? Let's see. How about... Oh, duh. I mean, I suppose this is a hostile act from the jellyfish. It's probably not that thinking of a creature, but enough that it's going to defend itself, and we're on a ship with big, heavy cannons. Why don't we try to secure an advantage by firing those cannons upward at it so that it kind of retracts, it goes away, it gives us a better ability to try and... It gives us more space to maneuver away. This is not a full-on combat. I'm not entering the fray or anything like that. We're just going to be using our cannons to give us an advantage. Now, as a result, that means I'm actually not going to benefit from the heavy cannons module, which is only if I use them to strike, which we're not. We're not in a full-on combat. We're far enough away that I am going to say that this is still an edge move, not an iron move. So really all it is just, instead of immediately facing danger with edge, we're going to secure an advantage with edge and hope that it goes a little bit better, or at least mitigate some of the problems if this goes wrong. Alright, so let's do it. Securing an advantage with edge as we fire at this thing to give ourselves a little bit more room. We don't have any bonuses to this, but we get... Okay, it's a miss, and so I'm glad this was the secure an advantage, not the face danger, which is basically what we were doing. Unfortunately, it does still mean that we fail or our assumptions betray us, pay the price. Now, this wasn't on trying to dodge out of the way, this was just trying to shoot it, but clearly our assumption is that it would get out of the way of these, that it would try and avoid this. But the problem is, maybe this jellyfish wants energy, and these are like energy cannons that are firing out, and so it actually draws it in closer. It draws it in closer as it wants to absorb some of this stuff. It seems to not be harmed by these cannons. It wants them, and as a result of that, let's see, pay the price. Again, this wasn't our attempt to get out of the way. I'm just going to make it do a minor... I'm going to lose the momentum we had at the beginning of the session. Just a -1 momentum. This is relatively small. It's just we have even less room. We can't rely on that to... We can't rely on that, not that we really could, to get out of here. Keeping it small, but now let's do the actual face danger. So here we go. We were not able to set ourselves up, but as these tentacles are closing in and the window is closing, Emil points in a direction and tells the person at the wheel to just gun it towards them as they've got like a little bit of an opening. I suppose maybe it would have been the right call to try and secure an advantage with wits, to try and like plan our way out, like find the best route, but it's too late now. So face danger with edge as we try and just fly on out of here. Okay, and thankfully that one is a weak hit. We almost were able to get a strong hit, but not quite. Challenge dice have been rolling pretty high today. We've seen worse. So we succeed, but not without a cost. Make a suffer move -1. I think in this case, we're going to say that... I don't know if it would make sense. I guess we could take an integrity hit, as it could just drain our shields a little bit. we could kind of like just barely graze one of the last tentacles in a way that just gives our shield something more to deal with. We don't get fully disabled, but yeah, let's just go with that. The ship has to withstand a little bit of damage here. Or I suppose we could choose to. It's just going to be a 1 because that's what the move said. So our integrity goes down to 2 instead of 3. But we could try and withstand that. We still have a +2 on it, so we're pretty decent. Yeah, let's give it a go. Let's try this. We're going to roll our integrity and see what happens. Nice. All right, we get a strong hit, which means we can bypass it. If your vehicle is not battered, we just take the integrity back. Or we can ride it out and take 1 momentum. I'm just going to take the integrity back. It's like nothing ever happened. We're able to bypass the damage. We reroute power or whatever. We get the shields back online as they were supposed to be. All is well. So, integrity back up to 3. However, we're not fully out of the frying pan just yet. We're not in the fire either. But now the problem is, while the Beowulf has gotten out of there, Newton's Folly is kind of a sitting duck. It doesn't know where to go. It needs direction from us as the giant jellyfish is now kind of moving over in its direction. Emil is safe and can now, being on the outside, it's not too hard to maneuver against it. But here's what we're going to do. Now that we know that it's actually kind of attracted to our heavy cannons, why don't we try and we're going to issue a command to Newton's Folly of where to go. We give it coordinates to go towards, while we're going to try and fire from the opposite direction to draw the jellyfish away towards the free energy. We're going to try and kite it away. And while I was going into this thinking I'd try and just handle it in 1 move, I actually had a thought this could actually be a pretty cool scene challenge. We set a small clock on it, and we're trying to lead it far enough away from Newton's Folly while the jellyfish is catching up with us because it's following our laser fire, going to get closer and closer. Can we get it far enough away to allow Newton's Folly to escape? And can then we escape before it catches up with us? Let's just make a small scene challenge out of this. I think it'll be pretty neat. So we are going to begin the scene. We have a clear advantage, is troublesome, we're ready to act as dangerous, or we're unprepared or outmatched is formidable. I think this is either troublesome or dangerous. This one isn't so bad. I think the clear advantage we have is we're a starship. I think we move faster. This thing is massive. I don't get the impression it moves all that fast. So it's just going to be troublesome. This is going to be a relatively easy one, but should be cool. So this is lure away the jellyfish. It's just troublesome. It is going to have a 4-segment clock on it, as a scene challenge would. And then we either face danger or secure an advantage in order to take action. So first things first, I think Emil is going to try and secure an advantage here by just communicating the proper information over to Newton's Folly, letting them know where they need to go because we're in a big gas giant right now. That could fuck with communications. We're relatively close right now. I don't want to take my chances with later communications being disrupted. We might have to go pretty far away to lure this jellyfish. So let's communicate this now so it knows where to go and we know where not to go. Because I think I'm going to try and lure it downward into the gas giant a little bit more, where maybe, who knows what its senses are. Maybe we can kind of lose it down there. Our sensors might be a little bit more sophisticated than its. I don't know. Maybe there's something down there. We can get it stuck. Maybe there are other creatures. I don't know. All kinds of things. The important thing is we're securing an advantage first. This is going to be with heart. This is resolve, command, or sociability. It's just about effective communication and letting them know where they need to go and communicating quickly enough what the plan is so that they follow it without a lot of questions and stuff. I could make an argument for wits, but I'm going to leave this as heart and just get going on this. So we do heart. Oh, okay, mate, for a second, I thought I was looking at the 3D dice on my screen. I thought I had a 6 strong hit with a match. Sadly, one of those 6s was a 9, so it's just a weak hit. But for a moment, I thought that I was starting this off really strong. But this is a weak hit, which means we either get 2 momentum or we get a 1 on our next move, but we're not going to fill the clock, which is nice. I think in this case, our momentum is low enough that getting the 2, which brings us up to 4 momentum, is probably not enough to really be all that beneficial, but the +1 on our next move really could help. Granted, we could get started on the momentum track. Tough call. You know what? Let's take the momentum. Let's try and build it up. I'm going to go up to 4 momentum rather than get the +1 on this move. We communicate what needs to be said. We get a confirmation. Maybe the weak hit of it all is that it is indeed kind of crackly radio, and we don't get an immediate confirmation from Newton's Folly, so we're not 100% sure if they got the message. What we get in return demonstrates like it's a broken up response, and so we're uncertain, like, oh, did they hear the coordinates right? There's no time to really pursue that, no time to really say it again. As we try and lure it away and fire the cannons, we're quickly losing our opportunity to be heard easily. But let's indeed face danger by firing these cannons and try and, like, lure it down towards us. This is definitely going to be an edge move, as this is all about mobility, agility, and these cannons. I wish that we got the benefit of them, but it kind of makes sense that we don't. For one thing, it's not really that important that we are able to, like, we're not trying to deal more damage and stuff. Now, it would be really cool if this were a strafing run, but again, this is about luring it. It doesn't even damage it. So let's roll face danger with edge. This time we get... Oh, I really wish that I took that +1. It would mean that this would be a weak hit and not a miss. I had a total of an 8, which is great, except when the challenge dice are 8 and 9. So I got a miss on this. Really wish that I took that +1 now. Means that that we fail or a momentary success is undermined by a dramatic turn of events. Fill a clock segment and pay the price. On a miss with a match, which this thankfully is not, but the dice sure are close to each other, fill 2 segments and pay the price. Again, but it's not a miss with a match, so we just fill the 1 segment. So clearly this jellyfish, in order to get its attention, maybe we had to fire at it a lot. We had to get maybe a little bit closer as Newton's Folly, like it like kept going towards Newton's Folly, kept going towards Newton's Folly. It kind of lured us in. And so we got closer and closer until we're like right by the tentacles. And as we're firing at it, and then it does probably swifter than we were expecting. It like spins around and whips these tentacles back at us. This thing is more intelligent than we gave it credit. It's trying to now disable me so it can have both ships. So we pay the price. This is definitely going to be that we got lured in, the tentacles come and they wrap around the ship. One of them, not a lot of them. We're not caught in so many that we're fully disabled, but a tentacle wraps around in its spin, and we're going to suffer some damage right now. This is definitely another withstand damage. I think this one is not incidental. It's going to be a 2, as it just like zaps through quite a bit. So we withstand 2 to the Beowulf. Now we only have a +1 to be able to actually withstand the damage. I don't know if it's worth it to us to try. I think I'm just going to leave it at that. It's too likely that we get a miss. We're going to take our loss and move on to try and get out of here, because now we're kind of wrapped up. And it's hard to... It might be hard to aim at the tentacle, and it's such close range that would probably be more of an iron move than an edge move. And of course, the thing isn't even damaged by the cannon. It likes it. It likes that energy. Maybe we have a different kind of weapon we could switch to. It's not our heavy cannons. Maybe we have something more conventional, something more ballistic that we could use to try and fire at it. But it's so close range. This would be iron. It would be hard. It would just be nice to have it like loosen its grip to allow us to wriggle out. But maybe we just need to go straight to that. Just wriggle on out of here. Go straight to facing danger with edge once again as we try and just escape the grasp of this tentacle and draw it along. Or, God, this could be interesting. This thing is the size of a hill. It's wrapped itself around us. If we just leave it there, it's going to keep getting our shields. But what if we actually what if we tow it? And just draw it away. If we just like take the hit for now so that Newton's Folly can get away, I mean, that's a possibility. I don't know if it's a good one. It definitely feels like more of an iron move. Yeah, that you know what? The more I talk about it, that seems more like a type of thing that Bash would do than Emil. I think Emil would just try and escape. I like the image, but I'm not going to go with it. Maybe, with conventional weaponry, we talked about how Newton's Folly is probably more like a missile array, and that would be explosives. It might not like that in the same way. And now that we're close because we had to get back in, maybe we can communicate that. Let's try and secure that advantage by, we're going to use Heart. We radio over that we need an opening. We're going to give it some coordinates, we need to figure out... Oh, this might be a wits thing, actually. I'm going to let myself use wits, because we need to think from their perspective, like, if they're there, they need to aim like this. We need to calculate it. I could maybe use my computer to help this out. I'm going to use every advantage I can right now, guys. We use our computer to help figure out, from their position, where do they need to aim their missiles in order to hit the jellyfish, and not us, in order to get it to free its grasp from us so that we can escape. So, this is not using my tech asset. We're not doing anything with an electronic system. We're using my computer. I'm able to use wits at least, but I can't justify that asset. I'm not making a program for it. Securing an advantage with wits in order to issue that command and let them know, fire at this location and hope that it comes through not too crackly. We get. Oh, we get. Once again, we had one die that tried to go really high up, but at least one of them was only a 2. So we have a weak hit. We can either take the 2 momentum or a 1 on our next move. Now, I got burned last time by not taking the 1 on our next move, but this would bring our momentum up to 6, which would really be helpful to save us. I think I'm going to go for that. So once again, I take the 2 momentum. We issue the command over there. We tell Newton's Folly, this is where you need to aim. It's a weak hit because, again, it's kind of crackly. We hope they get the right message out of it. The missiles do come in, but they're probably not aimed quite right. And so maybe it gives us a little bit of an opening, but less so than we were hoping. Hoping? I said opening and then whatever. Less so than we were hoping, but it's the opening we have. So we try and take that opportunity to wriggle on out of here. I'm going to face danger with edge. We don't have a +1, but we do have 6 momentum. Let's see how this goes. Okay, it's a weak hit, which, you know what, I'll take it. Also, the +1 would not have made it a strong hit, so I'm feeling okay with my choices. You're successful and mark progress, but also encounter a complication or setback, envision what occurs, and fill a clock segment. So thankfully this is only troublesome, so we're already at 3 boxes on this. We do wriggle our way out, but we're at 2 out of 4 boxes. I guess I need to figure out, like, what does that really mean? Like, if this got filled, I guess it'll depend a little bit on the moment, but it's probably indicative of it just, like, disabling one or both of our ships. I guess that's the real problem. I think that's the setback, is we get out, but once again, it's closing in on the easier prey. The one that's not moving around right now, it's trying to get in on Newton's Folly. And it's wrapping its tentacles around. It is about... We see its head ballooning up, getting ready to just suck Newton's Folly up into the mass of them. Because right now, Newton's Folly is on, like, the periphery, where it's just along the tips of them. It's not hard to avoid it. Not that they're really moving around or anything, but there's about to be that giant gust that's going to just draw the ship in to the mass of them, where it can get just utterly disabled very quickly. So I'm getting the impression the jellyfish is not that immediately lureable. But it did take harm from the missiles. It didn't like that. So we have the carrot and the stick here. The carrot of our laser weapons and the stick of their missiles. Maybe we can coordinate the 2 of them. But I don't think we have the moment to really coordinate anything. Not before this thing inflates and draws it up inside. And once it does, it might be hard to even communicate at all. It'll be blocking. Is there like a mega burst or something we could do to like really make it decide like, oh, this is where I want to be? We have to get it to think that we're the better prey. You know, we could try and attack it from above. We've been on the level of its tentacles, but maybe if we fly upwards, we could maybe even ram into its dome. Like maybe that's what we do. We like maneuver the ship and like fly into its hood, the canopy up above, in order to mess with its ability to inflate itself and like maybe rip a hole, really damage this thing in a way that it saves Newton's Folly, allows them to move. Well, like this whole time, we're probably frantically trying to communicate over the radio. There's just only so much getting across. We're trying to get them to just dive down. That's like, we're giving them simple messages, like down as hard as you can, anything like that, while we try and just get them out of the zone of problem. So yeah, we're going to go with that. I'm going to say that we now try and... God, if we're ramming it, again, that sounds like iron. I've got momentum on my side, but I'd love to have a +1 or anything. How can we justify this? I gotta find a way. Okay, I'm going to justify this by, we're going to secure an advantage with edge, which is we're leaning into the speed of this ship. We're going to maybe divert some power to our engines from what might otherwise be our shields or something like that in order to, we need to charge into this thing as quickly as possible in the right spot. We're aiming in an area that it looks like relatively thin, but I'm hoping our speed makes up for our lack of, brute force. This isn't a ship meant for ramming, but if you go fast enough, anything's meant for ramming, I guess. I don't know. That's my logic. I'm sticking with it. We're making an edge secure an advantage in order to, by leaning into our speed. Okay, it's a weak hit, as we've gotten every time we've done this. Let's take the +1 on our next move. Because it's about to be an iron move. I'm going to need that help. Nice as it would be to have 8 momentum, maybe we'll get it some other time. And also, it would make a lot of sense in, by like what words mean to choose momentum, because we're going very fast. But I think I'm just going to take the +1 on the move. So anyhow, here we go. Facing danger with iron as we try and just ram into this thing's canopy to divert it off course. That +1 turned this from a miss to a weak hit. Worth it. Actually, had I taken the momentum, I would have been able to turn this into a strong hit, but I would have had to get rid of all my momentum to do it. So you know what? I'll take this. Once again, so this means we're successful, but we're going to fill in the clock segment as well. So we're up to 3 out of 4 on the clock, 6 out of 10 on the progress bar, but there's a complication or setback. I mean, we did just ram into this thing. It shouldn't be too hard to think of that. I think the big problem is, okay, I think we ram into it pretty successfully. We get it far away from Newton's Folly. We're going so fast. We are dragging this thing across the skies of this gas giant. But now, we are now wrapped up in it. It's like there's a giant garbage bag over all of our sensors and everything. Like our computer, we can't hear anything. Our sensors are basically down. We can't see where we're going. We know we've got to be going away from Newton's Folly. And we're struggling. We're not being electrified by it because we're at the canopy, not the tentacles. But we're all wrapped up in it, and I think we're in like a tailspin. It's really messing with how we're going. It's fucking up our abilities for the engines to move. So we're in this weird tailspin as we're going down towards the center of this gas giant. And thankfully, it's a gas giant. There's probably not much to collide with, but still, we need to shake this thing off, which I think is, again, just going to be an edge move. I mean, it's about maneuverability. We need to get it off of us. Is there a clever way I could describe, like, what specifically are we doing besides just piloting out of it? I think what it looks like, honestly, we might just, we're kind of just, slamming on the brakes, functionally. We're going to cut all power to the engines and, reverse as fast as possible to hope that, if we're being just covered by basically a garbage bag, that hopefully it's mostly from the one direction still. And if we go just straight in reverse and let it fly off of us, that hopefully will open up room here. That's the intention anyway. So let's do it. We're going to face danger with edge as we try and just all reverse and probably restoring some power to our shields in case we wind up back in the tentacles and stuff. Actually, I don't know if there may not be time for that. We're just going full reverse. Let's see what happens. This is me justifying if this goes really wrong. This is the reason why we have problems. So an edge move as we face danger. Try to back out of this thing and find out where we are. Ooh, that was almost a double 10 match. Instead, it's a 10 and a 9 miss. So we're not able to get ourselves untangled from this entirely. We're trying. It's starting to cinch down on us, and maybe it's got some other moves that are not just electrifying. It's closing around us. It's now the one in control of where we go. We shut down our engines to try and back up. And maybe we do actually try and restore power to our shields a little bit, but it means that our engines aren't that powerful, and so now the jellyfish is determining where we're going. This is a miss, which means we do fill in a clock segment, and that ends it. So we have 6 out of 10. We're going to roll against that to find out how this goes when, the jellyfish takes us down. Eventually we're going to escape, maybe. It kind of depends on how this rolls. But it's going to bring us somewhere. Maybe it has children. And really, it doesn't need to feed as, we've been feeding it by shooting it. Maybe it's taking us back to the equivalent of the nest. It brings us down into the gas giant where we can't see very well, but every once in a while, in the clouds, the camera is seeing this more than Emil. Emil is still wrapped up. We see these kind of lights, almost like thunderstrikes in the clouds, as we see little electric arcs that are lighting up the sky. blocked by all these clouds. There are other jellyfish down here. They're smaller, but they exist, and they're coming in closer. Now we're going to find out how good we are in this situation by making a progress roll against this, because this is the end of the scene challenge. We're finishing the scene. So here we go. What happens? 7 miss with a match. You fail or are undermined by a dire and costly turn of events. Pay the price. We sure do. Clearly, we are taken out of range of Newton's folly. We cannot communicate. We don't know exactly where we are. Eventually, the jellyfish lets up and we emerge down there. But when it does, we are immediately wrapped up in tentacles from all around as all of these various jellyfish are like fighting over the Beowulf. They're all trying to suckle at this energy at the same time. We're wrapped up in this tangle of tentacles. We're immediately, at the very least, taking 3 harm to the ship. We only have 1 integrity at the moment, so that means we're losing 2 momentum, and we have to try and withstand this. And then eventually I have to figure out what the match part, how that makes it even worse. We'll get there. So we're withstanding damage with a +0, and we get a strong hit. Great. Where were those, the 1 and the 3, where were those when I was trying to finish this scene challenge? Okay, but it is a strong hit. We can avoid being battered. We can take 1 integrity back, or the 1 momentum back, bring us back up to 5, which might be the thing we need more of. Not that I love being at 1 integrity, but being at 0 isn't that much better. All right, we're going to bypass this somehow. Maybe we're able to avoid being disabled. Perhaps that's because Emil thinks enough about this to realize that they're going to drain the power. Maybe there's a chance they'll escape later if we can just ride this out for a little while and shut down all the power. So while they're out of control, part of the reason why they submit to this is Emil recognizes they're not going to be able to escape. They're trying as hard as they can. The jellyfish is in control. He thinks forward about what's likely to happen, and he makes an executive decision, which is shut down all the power. And so while these jellyfish are wrapped up in tentacles all around them, they're actually not getting what they want out of it. They're not getting the energy from the ship that they want. And the hope is that eventually they give up and Emil will be able to escape. He can't right now, though, and we do still need to figure out what is the 7 match that makes this even worse. It's got to be pretty high at 7. This could certainly be a big hit to Spirit as well. Yeah, we're going to go with that. I'm going to say that it's cruel enough if I say 3 to Integrity and also 2 to Spirit, as we are wondering, like, everybody is super tense down here. It's like a submarine movie as they're trying to stay dark and, like, they're all exposed. They're hoping that these things that are huge don't just, like, crush the ship, because maybe they have the ability to do that. There's all kinds of moans and creaks on the outsides. It sounds like the ship is not holding up very well, but they can't turn anything on because they need to just hope that it can all be that eventually they let go. So I take 2 to Spirit, as Emil is definitely not sure he's making the right call here, and not sure he can do anything about it. Like, they basically subjected themselves to this situation. Now, enduring stress, I'd still be able to roll with heart. I'm pretty good at that. My heart is still a +2. I'm going to try and endure it, sure. We also still have 5 momentums. Let's see. But I get a miss. So it's worse than you thought. Suffer an additional -1 Spirit or lose momentum -2. That would bring my Spirit down to 0 or my momentum down to 3. And then if my Spirit is 0, you must also mark shaken or traumatized or mark on the table. I think I'm going to take the momentum loss. It sucks. We've worked so hard to build our momentum up, but it keeps going back down, just as our ship was dragged down into this planet by the jellyfish. Tensions are high again. A lot of people are pretty unhappy with Emil at the moment, and they're discussing whether or not there is a way that maybe the ships that they have, because there are some of the single fighters that are aboard the Beowulf. Maybe they would be able, maybe they'd have a better time shooting their way out. Their weapons are a little different, but they're still probably energy-based. Actually, I'm going to ask the Oracle here. Let's ask the Oracle if the single fighters have any just like kinetic weaponry, things that would work better like the missiles did. I'm going to put that as a 50-50. You know, we're in a sci-fi world. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So asking the Oracle, 50-50, do the snub fighters have kinetic weaponry aboard? Yes, they do. And that was such a yes, it would have been true on small chance. I rolled a 3. It was meant, though they have the weaponry that should work as far as we know. So, okay, there's a lot of discussion about whether the right call is to try and get people aboard those ships and start just blasting their way out. Or get the tentacles to let go. And I don't think Emil wants to do that. I think Emil is still trusting his feeling that what they need to do is just wait it out. That these things, they're probably only getting the tiniest amount of reserve energy from the batteries. There's maybe a little bit they can access, but overall, they're going to get tired. They're going to let go. They just have to have faith. But as we've discussed, Emil is not respected as just like the captain, the executive. They can't reach the person they would otherwise respect as actually being in charge here. So I think in order to get them to not just take these ships and start trying to blast their way out, which I think Emil thinks is a bad idea. Emil thinks they're just going to all get killed that way. He needs to stop the rise, he needs to stop them from just going berserk and trying to do that. He needs to put out this fire, which is definitely a compel move. I mean, he's telling it to the crowd here, just trying to get everybody to calm down and trust him. I think what I'd like him to do, I do want to try and secure an advantage here. Something he can do to try and present his case. Maybe he makes kind of a simulation using diagnostic info that we have about the ship and things that we've observed with it. He's going to use his computer to make a full display he can show everybody about how long they have, and that even sapped as they are, just structurally this hull can withstand it for long enough that he's going to make the argument that if they need to, they can wait until their jump engines are back online and then just jump from inside this thing. They're not online yet, but he's going to make the argument the ship would be able to last until then, and he's going to give a visual demonstration that shows, probably leaning into making it seem as complicated as possible because he knows most of the people here aren't that savvy with tech stuff like this. He's going to try and make it sound very complicated to prove, as best as he can, that he knows his shit and that the ship can withstand it. And of course, Emil's a gearhead. He knows about this shit. Oh, actually, and if he can calm them down, we actually might be able to use this time to try and repair the ship from the inside. That'd actually be really cool. It's kind of like, it makes me think of when they're inside the cave in the asteroid in Empire Strikes Back. Okay, anyhow, I'm going to allow myself to... I don't think I have a good justification for the tech asset for this secure an advantage. I'm not really configuring, optimizing, hacking, or disrupting an electronic system, and I don't think this is so complex that it would be worthy of me making a complex, specific function computer program, so this is just going to be a wits secure an advantage to hopefully give me a better shot at this compel. Alright, let's see how this goes. Alright, strong hit, which kind of makes me wish I'd gone straight for the compel, but I don't, because we get 2 momentum from this, and we get a +1 on our next move. So our momentum is back up to 5, which is great. Well, it could be better, but we're working our way back up. Emil makes this display. He's using it to back up everything he's saying, which is basically the argument I was just saying. I'm not going to rehash it. You heard it the first time. He presents it to them with this compel. This... I don't think he's threatening or inciting it. He is just trying to... he's literally trying to pacify them, which is one of the options. So this is a heart move. He's not lying or swindling. I think everything he's used, while he is, trying to lean into it sounding complicated, he is telling the truth. To the best of his understanding, the ship should be able to last long enough. Actually, okay, here, I'm going to make one more Oracle roll here. I want to find out whether or not that's true. Maybe he does have to lie, because we don't know that. I guess I could gather information to figure that out, but I don't think that's worthy of a roll. I think Emil has the information. I'm just going to ask the Oracle, what does he find out? Yeah, well, let's do that instead of ask the Oracle, because we got more of an opportunity to gain momentum here. So we're making a wits roll. I'm doing these a little bit out of order, unfortunately. This is something he would have done first, but I only thought of it now. I'm not going to worry too much about it. We're just going to do it in this order, even though temporally it's not quite right. So before he would have done that roll, he would have gathered information to find out, can they last that long? So we're making a wits roll here. We do have a +1 on it. And we get... Okay, it's a weak hit. Even with that +1. We didn't roll that hot. So the information provides new insight, but also complicates your quest. Envision what you discover, then take 1 momentum. I think what that means then is that, yeah, this is... It's not a full-on miss, so it's not just that it won't last that long. I think it's that he's unsure. Like, he runs a bunch of simulations, and some of the times the ship can last, and sometimes it can't. It depends very much on where exactly they're grabbing, where they might squeeze, if they do things, and what, like, he's taking measurements from what the ship is detecting to find out, like, how hard are they clamping down on it, but they move around a little bit. Sometimes the tentacles kind of writhe into new places as they keep probing around and searching for energy to suck on, and they can't quite find it. And so the simulations determine it depends where they move around to. If they go to the wrong place, this ship definitely won't be able to survive. It won't last until they can jump, is what I mean. So I guess getting back to the compel roll, now that we don't even have a +1 on it because of my doing this out of order, the question is, does that mean, is he full on lying or swindling to them? I think if this were a miss, he would be. I think I'm still going to be nice and say that he knows that he's not full on lying. It could survive. He's maybe glossing over the exact probabilities that it won't. He's trying to be a little bit highlighting the right kind of stuff, but he's not full on just lying to them. So it's still a heart roll, but we don't have the +1 anymore because I fucked up the order of the moves, whatever. Let's make a heart roll. We at least have 6 momentum. If we had the +1, this would be a strong hit. As it is, it's just a weak hit, and that's fine. So they'll do what I want, or agree to my conditions, but their agreement comes with a demand or complication. Envision their counteroffer and take 1 momentum. Okay, so what is it that allows them, that gets them to agree to not take the ships out? Because that was what this was all about, was don't open up the hangar and try and fly these ships and blast your way out. Just give me more time. So what does Emil have to give up to get them to concede to that? He doesn't have a lot he could at the moment. Okay, I'm going to do this in a kind of classic way for the way I like to handle this sort of thing. I'm going to keep it relatively simple. Here's the complication, rather than a demand. They're going to do what he wants, but I am making a clock here, just a 4-segment clock that I call Beowulf Mutiny. And I'm filling the first section of this clock. They're only going to put up with this shit so long. I think Emil can do things to move this clock backwards if he chooses to make actions that kind of bring the peace more. But if this clock ever fills up, they're going to just overthrow him and take over the ship entirely. They're going to be through with his shit. And this is the first of those moments, so it's a delayed sort of mutiny. I mean, mutiny isn't even really the right word, because again, he's not officially the captain, but he is the owner of the ship, so it's a weird territory. But it does mean they're going to do what he wants in this moment. So we have some time here. We have built up our momentum all the way up to 7, but as I mentioned, I'd love to use this opportunity while we're waiting. Perhaps there is time to try and just repair this ship. We do have a workshop on board, and we're repairing in the field. So let's try and do that. We're using this time while we're all waiting to try and put minds at ease. This is just like reinforcing the inside, because we wouldn't want to power the shields back on, nothing like that. But we reinforce the inside as best as we can, finding any of the weak points, and are just, welding shit together, securing things, doing our best to just give this ship a once-over and patch it up. Give ourselves something to do anyway. So we're repairing this baby. We get a +1 because we are repairing in the field. We also get a +1 because we are a gearhead, and we'll take 1 momentum on a hit. So this is going to be wits with a +2 because we are making our own repairs. Let's see how this goes. Okay, we get a strong hit, which once again, I thought this was about to be a double 9 match, but once again, 1 was a 9, 1 was a 6. I made that mistake again. But we totally get a strong hit. And because we are in the field, that means we get 3 points to spend. And each integrity that we give to the vehicle is just 1 point, which is all we're working on right now. It would be hard to justify anything else. So we work on the inside. We bring this from 0 all the way up to 3, which is great. We take 1 momentum because we got a hit and we're a gearhead. Thankfully, this is one of the things Emil is meant to do. And I think that does help a little bit calm tensions, as he clearly, he's getting into the mix there. He's not just giving out orders to everybody, like, hey, everybody, you do this thing. He does check around to make sure it's all being done correctly at times, and surveys, but he's getting into the mix and doing probably a lot of the actual repair work here. And, it doesn't make everybody less likely to mutiny, but it's good. It helps keep minds at ease long enough to maybe try and make their escape. They finish that up. The integrity is higher on the inside, and they get some kind of a sign that maybe it would be worth trying. A little bit of the pressure. I guess I described before he was getting ship diagnostics. I guess he wouldn't be able to do that with the power off. Maybe it was things he had downloaded into his computer, because his computer, we're going to say his computer has been hooked up to the ship quite a while, and so it got all these readings that it had from before they turned off the power. He was using that and using his computer's holographic display to show the AR display to show everybody. But they wouldn't be able to tell how things are changing, I guess. And that's the real question. But maybe the creaking has kind of stopped. It's gotten softer and let up, and there's this feeling like maybe they have a moment here. So I think what we're going to do, especially because we don't know the answer to that, and there's not really a good way to tell, I guess the best thing Emil could do is maybe use his phase shifter to go outside and look, but that sounds like a terrible idea. Especially because we don't know what's going on this gas giant. Probably doesn't want to be out there. Let's just face danger and try and get back to the Beowulf. This is just going to be an agility move. This is edge. This is speed, mobility, agility. We're just trying to fly out of here when we finally get the time for it to let up a little bit. I don't want to just jump away because we need to coordinate with Newton's Folly in order, they need to know where to go. I don't think they have those coordinates. We hadn't decided yet. We haven't calculated them. Also, I don't know if we've got the ability to jump just yet anyway. So, let's face danger with edge. Let's get on back to the surface and find them. And there we go. A nice strong hit. We take 1 more momentum. We're all the way up to 9 now. The moment was right. They fly out of there. I'm not going to do a whole other scene where they escape. I think the tentacles, they hadn't fully let go, but they had indeed loosened enough that they could just burst out. I think the most awkward part of it is that, they're not immediately ready to punch out of it. They got to turn systems back online. And so when that happens, they need to do this quickly. They plan in order to have everybody at their stations ready to just punch it as soon as they possibly can. Because if the jellyfish start detecting that the ship is back online, they're going to close back in. And I think that they do. They try to, but because this is a strong hit, clearly Emil and co are too fast and they're able to get out of there. And with all power to the engines, they lose the jellyfish. It's no longer in pursuit. They will eventually find Newton's Folly. Let's continue our expedition. That was quite the problem to have at one waypoint. Let's try and find a new one. So we're undertaking an expedition here. This is definitely, again, going to be speed. We need to try and catch up with this other ship. There is no time to deal with Shadow or with Wits, nothing like that. We got to catch up. We do our best to interpret where the other ship is. We calculate, we send the coordinates over to Newton's Folly after we've gotten out of the gas giant. We coordinate enough to get Newton's Folly out of the gas giant so that our communications are better. We get that ready. God, it would probably be very beneficial of us to make sure that Newton's Folly can actually see. But clearly all of our time was taken this time with other shit. We'll do that next time we have a moment where we're waiting on the jump engines. But this time, all of that was taken up with jellyfish troubles. I think Newton's Folly was very happy to find out that we're back. They didn't know what the hell was going on. They didn't hear from us. They hoped that they would. There was a faith that we were going to be okay, because clearly Emil had a plan, and Bash does think Emil's plans and stuff are pretty good, but it was probably pretty dicey there. Also, most importantly, they really can't calculate where to go, and they're just blind. So they're pretty much stranded. Anyhow. We're making an edge move. We got 9 full momentum on this. I hope I don't have to use it. Well, it is a miss. I could turn it into a weak hit with burning all that momentum, but I had a 9 up top, and I'd love to make progress on this, so I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to burn all of this momentum just to get a weak hit on this. Because on a weak hit, we'll get there, it's just the progress is going to cost us. And in this case, like ordinarily, it's we suffer costs en route, make a suffer move -2, or 2 suffer moves -1, or face a peril at the waypoint and vision what you encounter. We also have a clock on this, as you recall, which is the Imperium prisoner transport, or well, profit margin, as we now know that it's called, making it to the prison. So I could either fill that in twice, because that would be the equivalent of 2 -1 suffer moves, or that would be the equivalent of 1 -2 suffer move, or I could do it 1 to that and lose 1 to something else. I think in this case, because we got a long way to go, we're going to go with -1 to that. We're going to fill in 1 segment on that, and then a -1 to, God, what would we lose? I guess it can always be momentum. Bring that down to a 1. I don't think it makes any sense for us to lose health along the way. Maybe integrity or supply, but I don't think so. I guess the other thing I could take a -1 on, the Beowulf mutiny thing, if I could come up with a thing that pissed off the crew members again, maybe that would be the other -1. Like we fill in that clock segment as well. But I guess the best justification I would have for that is maybe Emil is the one to suggest that there's no time to fix Newton's Folly's sensors right now. But I don't love that. I think there'd be enough agreement on the course fit. I'm just going to take a -1 to momentum. Let's just keep it simple. But we do make progress, so that's the important bit. We do reach a waypoint, which means we are up to 2 progress out of 10 on this. We are racing against the clock here. They still have a long way to go. Let's figure out what this waypoint is. Because once again, maybe there's an opportunity while we're here to get some good supplies. We're pretty low on supply. Or repair Newton's Folly. Who knows? Let's roll on some oracles. Find out where we are. So I'm going to declare that we are still in the Outlands. It's going to take them a little while before they get to the terminus. So we're still in the Outlands, and we find a planet once again. Which is what we found last time. What kind of planet is this? It's another Jovian world, okay? It's going pretty similar. Let's find out, are there settlements on this? None. Yeah, we're going in circles. Are we even finding a new place? There are no settlements. Observed from space on this planet. Numerous moons. I mean, that's cool. None of them have been used for habitation or anything, but there are numerous moons. And just like the last one, I don't think this planet would have a name if nobody has settled it. Like, nobody would bother naming this in the Outlands. It's maybe got like a letter and number designation or something, but we don't know anything about this place. And we're not looking to get down into the thick of it right now. This time we are safely outside of its atmosphere. And I think it's just the question of, do we take the time? I'm going to make an ad hoc ruling right here, which is we could repair Newton's Folly's sensors. I could take the time to make that roll. It's going to be a longer project. And so as a result, no matter what happens, I'm going to fill in a clock segment on catching up with the Imperium transport. Like, we're going to run out of time if we do that. Or not run out of time, but we're going to use up time, I should say. But I do think it's worth it. Like, while we're waiting for these jump engines to come back online, like, we really need Newton's Folly to be able to see again. So we're waiting for it. We send Emil over in a single fighter to just do some repairs over there. Let's make that roll really quickly. There's nothing we can take advantage of at this waypoint, so let's use this opportunity as we have it. I'm going to fill in that clock segment now, so it's at 2 out of 4, and let's make this repair move. Now, I do not get to use my workshop because that's on the wrong ship, but I am still a gearhead, so I still get a +1 on this, and we're still repairing in the field. So let's do wits with a +1. Okay, it's a strong hit, thankfully. There was a pretty high challenge die, but, you know, Emil does have wits. So once again, we're going to get 3 points because we're out in the field, and once again, we are going to get 1 momentum because this was a hit. Let's see, I think this would be the equivalent of fixing 1 broken module. The module being just their sensors. So that takes 2 points right there. Could also take +1 health for a mechanical companion or 1 integrity on a vehicle. I mean, this is aboard Newton's Folly, so like it's been kind of abstracted right now. I don't know. I'd love to use this opportunity to, let's just say maybe there's enough time that Emil can still, when he gets back, I don't want to waste those points. I'm going to say Emil is able to just like, we can still take that integrity on the Beowulf. So I'm just going to move us to integrity of 4 because we do have the 1 point left over. And maybe while their jump engines are online, there's like, they wind up with a better moment to do the jump where like things are going to be in alignment a little bit better, and it would actually be beneficial if they took slightly more time before they jump. So they're like, their engines are ready, but they decide to actually wait it out for a better window. I don't know all of what's opening up, but a planet is in the wrong place and they could maybe do a shortcut more if they were able to go through this place. And so Emil uses that time to still repair the Beowulf a little bit more. We'll go with that. So we've got it almost up to full integrity, which is nice. And let's try and get to another waypoint, because the time does come and we once again move with speed. So making an edge roll, and we get, okay, it's another weak hit. It's the same as the last one. You know, we're going to get to a waypoint, but we need to make a suffer move, either -2 or 2 -1, or face a peril when we're there. And if I keep filling in this clock on losing time, like, we're not going to be able to catch up with them. We're only going to be at 4 progress on this right now, so I think it might behoove me to face another peril while we're here. So I'm marking progress. We're up to 4. Let's find out what kind of peril we have. So to start off, let's do the same thing where we find out, like, where are we? What is this waypoint? Because that could inspire it. We are still in the Outlands, and we find a precursor vault. Holy shit. Now, I want to make something perfectly clear right here. We have spent like this entire campaign establishing that the information about where the precursor vaults are has been hidden. It's this whole like national treasure style riddle solving to even find where they are and everything about them. We're not just going to say, oh, you can stumble on it and then get inside and all that. No. I don't think this is the first time that somebody has seen a precursor vault, but nobody has ever known how to get inside. And that's one of the big things that's been hidden away. They stumble on a location of one. Nobody has ever charted it to be here. Maybe they just happen to get that exactly lucky where they find it. But nobody knows how to get inside. And like that, everybody's murmuring and talking about it. There's lots of chatter about what they should be doing at this moment. Like, sure, they could go after the prisoners, but like the vaults are what it's all about. And this is a new opportunity to find out, like, what do they even need to find out in order to get inside? They've never had such an opportunity to actually get up close, unprotected, and look at it, find out what is even sealing them away from it. It's a new opportunity to learn. And so everybody's trying to figure out, is that what we should be doing instead? Should we abandon following the prisoners and just go to pursue this vault? Which, to be clear, let's describe it a little bit. This vault, we've never seen one before. I've been picturing it as like a really elongated kind of spire shape. I imagine like an octahedron, like a big 3-dimensional diamond, but thinner and not quite as jagged. Like this is not just an elongated D8, but like if it's like a little curvier, if you took all the sides in, maybe a little bit more, kind of it comes to points in these like curves rather than just like hard triangular faces, but really long and thin and pretty smooth throughout. It's very unclear where one would even approach it. But everybody on the ship knows that's what a precursor vault looks like. And they're all figuring out, should we go inside? That's what all the discussion is. And Emil looks at the window with a look that is a strange combination of both terror and almost madness. Because he doesn't see a precursor vault out the window. He sees VY572. The reason that this is a peril is that this is a kind of space mirage that shows everybody there what they seek. All of them are madly driven towards having to pursue it. And so the ships, unable to control themselves mentally, divert from the course to try and investigate this site. Both Newton's Folly and Beowulf fly in that direction. And as for what the true peril is going to be when you are drawn in by these kind of mirage fairy lights, this space will-o-wisp, well, that's a question for next time. So I just recently had my parents here visiting for the first time, and we were catching up on all kinds of things, and at one point in the conversation we brought up this podcast that I do, and obviously they had some questions about it. And, it's always tricky trying to describe to people that are very much not in the hobby in general. They don't play RPGs, they're aware of them, they know that they're a big part of my life, but they don't really have a lot of framework for it, and so it's all the stranger to try and describe why exactly this is something where I'm making a story and I don't really know where it's going to go. Like, I get to be just as surprised as anybody else by how it all goes. And so I was trying to give concrete examples of, like, a little bit of how it works while recognizing that, they're not really the target audience. They're not truly... I'm not, like, selling them on doing this themselves. They don't care that much. They just want to understand a little bit better. So I'd talk about how, certain things that are randomly generated, or the ways I might be interpreting results to make sense. And I certainly brought up how sometimes there would be these prompts where I would get like an adjective and a noun and try and best understand how to put these together in a way that made sense with where we are. And of course that leads us to the prompts. So this week, partly with the idea in mind that they were just here, I've decided the prompts this week, I want you to describe a vacation destination. We're going to be using a descriptor and focus this time. And this week, the descriptor and focus are active and plant. So tell me all about a place that you would visit, some kind of vacation destination that you would go based on the words active and plant. A lot of different ways you could interpret those, and I'm curious to know how you're going to spin them, so please send your ideas to me. The email is starforgedpod@gmail.com. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Send them over, and as always, play me out, music.